Many young athletes struggle with discipline, consistency, and accountability. But what many young athletes don't know is that something as simple as setting goals is scientifically proven to increase your consistency and your performance. I am thrilled to be working with the company Sports Hogs. It is a family-run company that specializes in making journals where you can track your process goals. Each journal, here's mine for basketball, gives you an opportunity to list your goals, how you want to implement them, and then gives you opportunities to not only reflect on goals in your workouts, but also reflect on each game performance over the course of the season. My favorite part of these Sports Hogs journals is the space where you as an athlete can list positive affirmations to keep yourself motivated. And if you need a little extra positivity, there are great quotes from legendary athletes filled in the journal. This family did an outstanding job creating resources for young athletes all over the country. And if you want to take advantage of this resource, visit sportshogs.com. That's sportshogs.com. Get a hand on your journal today. Greetings, information superhighway. My name is Jared Zeidman. This is Miles. We are decked out in our Mets gear because it is the home stretch. He's also really fascinated by the lights. Let's see if we can get him to look at the camera. No, it's not happening. Well, anyway, let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Now, you might be thinking to yourself that, wow, Miles's blue and orange jumpsuit looks an awful lot like a prisoner's outfit. Well, welcome to Mets fandom. Because here we are. 10 weeks ago, Grimace sent us on an upward trajectory, and now with 13 games left in the season, the Mets are 2 games out. They've got a series against the Phillies, they've got a series against the Nats, they've got a series against the Braves. The target they really have to catch, because they'll probably, in order to make the playoffs, probably beat the Braves, the target they really have to catch is the Diamondbacks, who have a much easier schedule to close the season. But, just like we believed in this little miracle to grace us with his presence, you got to believe. Let's go Mets. All right, on to business. Welcome to episode 11 of the Nail the Recruiting Process podcast. I am thrilled about the feedback we have received from the first 10 episodes. I am thrilled with the educational content that we have provided young recruits and their families. And I really think we have set the foundation, and we did it with some incredible guests ranging from former players to coaches, all the way from the non-scholarship level to the high Division I level that want to see young recruits and their families handle this process better. So what's in store for you for the second half of the first season? Well, I want to talk a lot about the how. A common theme that guests shared in the first half of the season was the type of work that they wanted to see recruits do more, the type of effort that they wanted to see recruits undertake more, specific things they wanted to see recruits do differently in the process. And I really wanted to dig deeper into the nuts and bolts of that and talk to them about how to do it. We will have really, really good guests. Like, I am really excited about who we've pulled. We're going to have national championship caliber coaches. We are going to have former scholarship level athletes. We're going to have former professional athletes. We are going to have current trainers and strength and conditioning coaches. We are going to have anyone you can think of under the sun here to tell you exactly how to do the what. And we're going to start with a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. It is September, and commonly in September, High Academic Division III is hosting their official campus visits. Now, this is a small section of the big college sports landscape, but it's an extremely popular section. And for a little history lesson, it's double popular in the Northeast compared to everywhere else. Here's your fun history lesson. Most institutions west of Ohio are either small private institutions that were founded late in the country's development or land grant institutions where our literal initial governmental policy was to expand westward and drop a college that matched the mission of that area, whether that was an agricultural institute, a technological institute. So a lot of these institutions, as you get further west, are bigger. Well, what tends to happen with bigger institutions? D2 and D1. Small colleges aren't exclusively a Northeast thing, but you got to think about how this country was settled. the original 13 colonies housed a substantial amount of both small state and small private institutions. Now, these institutions have a lot of financial firepower now because they've existed since the late 17 and early 1800s, and they are some of the most academically prestigious institutions you can go to. In fact, many of these institutions are pound for pound better educationally than the Ivies. So these are schools with great academic reputations who also have outstanding athletic programs. What a lot of young people and their parents don't understand about these programs is that they are being coached just as competitively, not only as every other Division III institution, but also as some scholarship institutions, because these schools have such pull academically that people will turn down athletic scholarships to go to these institutions if the money is right, be it with financial aid or merit packaging. And we're going to learn as we talk to today's guest, who I'll get into in a second, that every small college handles things a little bit differently. If you are a junior or senior and you're thinking about this as your track, the amount that is discussed in this next hour and 10 minutes is beyond worth your time. And here to help me navigate all this stuff is Hamilton College head coach Mahogany Green, affectionately known as Coach Mo. I've known Coach Mo for a while. Coach Mo coached at the Division I level for 15 years, and this was after being a tremendous Division I player from Cleveland State University, grew up in Toledo, Ohio. Now, after 15 years at the D1 level, she's running Hamilton in the NESCAC, which is widely considered the best high academic Division III conference across sports in the country. NESCAC women's basketball is legit. The recruiting is incredible. The competition is incredible. And if you have an opportunity to watch a NESCAC team play or practice, I promise you it will change the way you think about Division III. Now, what's a coach that with, exclusively Division I experience doing at a D3 school? Oh, implementing Division I standards, because that's what it takes to succeed playing basketball in the NESCAC. And Coach Mo is doing a great job since she's arrived at Hamilton, building that team to be better and better each year. And another really cool thing about Coach Mo is that whenever I was out recruiting before I started my time at Canisius at the Division I level, I would see Coach Mo recruiting with a very special guest, one of her young children, usually in a stroller. Coach Mo is a grinder. Her kids were everywhere with her. And one of the things we really talk about in this podcast as we start, during the getting to know you part, is how important family is to her and how important being a mom has changed her perspective, not only on coaching, but on the way she is looked at by her players. Another great thing that we talk about in this podcast, besides everything you need to know about high academic D3, is a personal story of Coach Mo's adversity. And while I certainly don't want to spoil all of it, Coach Mo has an experience that is very, very relatable for many young athletes. She suffered 2 ACL tears when she was in high school that threw a wrench in her recruiting. This was one of the best guards in Ohio who was getting offers from everyone. And you are going to hear her talk about how one coaching staff particularly was supremely loyal to her through her ACL tears, how she ended up at that college, what playing for that coaching staff taught her, what her relationships are like with that coaching staff now, and how she likes to pay it forward to her current athletes, including recruiting athletes that have had a severe injury that required a long-term surgery and recovery. Coaching is largely about paying it forward. And I am thrilled with the information that Coach Mo Green shares on this podcast to pay it forward to young athletes. We're done with the Mets jokes. I'm glad you got to meet Miles. It's go time. Good morning, Coach Mo.
Good morning. What's going on?
This is I'll tell you what, you and your energy, it's good for a morning recording. I'll
Oh,
tell you.
100%, man. We wake up, we done showered this morning. I'm clean. I'm smelling good. I'm having a good hair day. My curls is
Yeah,
popping.
this is
It's all
so.
good.
Now, I mentioned this a little bit in the intro that I recorded that you did not hear. I mentioned that, something that I always loved about encountering you on the road was there was a really good chance when I was out recruiting that you were going to have one of your young ones on you in a stroller.
Oh,
When I when I
100%.
when I saw you on the road.
100%. Yeah.
Now that is me, let me be the first person to tell you, good Lord, that was an impressive piece of work.
Hey, listen. It's hard out there with them kids. But what I will tell you, Jared, now the trick of it is they good recruiting tools. Like the parents love it. They love it. They love to see, oh my God, she's a mom. She's bringing her kids on the road. Yep, they with me because they don't have no place else to go. So let's go. We going
Right.
recruiting.
Well, and segue alert for our listeners. We are going to talk about how, having young children impacts your ability to coach, because it's all we run little families. Our teams are families.
100%.
And I think that's part of our lens. But now I just learned something. I've known you for a minute, and I literally just learned a second ago that you're from Toledo, Ohio. So I know about Ohio basketball, especially after my experience at Canisius, really digging into some basketball out west after being a lifelong New Yorker. So I want to start here. You played basketball at Cleveland State. You had a great college career. You've been coaching for a good while now. I've heard you say a number of times, Coach, that in this current era of your career, your focus is giving back and, paying it forward what was given to you. This might be a corny question, but especially for our listeners, I want them to have a perspective of it. Can you talk a little bit about what was given to you and what is so important to you that you can give back to your teams?
Oh man, listen, that's not a corny question. It's a great question. And it's a question that is basically the basis of why I do what I do. Toledo, Ohio, born and raised. Great basketball town. Jimmy Jackson, Dennis Hobson, my sister Misha Green. The younger kids that have come up now. You got Natasha Howard.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm going blank on her name. She played at South Carolina. Oh man, great guard. She plays for the LA Sparks now, but great basketball pedigree out of Toledo, Ohio, on women's and men's side. And then I stayed close to home, man. Like I was getting recruited pretty big time, and I tore both my ACLs out of high school. So then my recruiting just like dropped off the face of the earth. Cleveland State stuck with me at the time. The head coach there was Duffy Burns. He did a home visit, and this is a true story. This is how I know recruiting has changed. Him and his assistant, Lisa Rathbun Savory, who is now an AD at Michigan, came into my home, did a home visit with me and my mother, and I signed Jared to go to Cleveland State and had never even visited the campus. Like I was just blown away by the energy, the promise, the dedication that they showed me, because they stuck through my recruiting process even after I tore my second ACL. So I just was like, man, you know what? This might be where God want me to be. I signed my national letter of intent. And I'll tell you, I had the best 4-year experience at Cleveland State that if I could do it all over again, I would go back to Cleveland State. I love the land. We call it the land if you from Ohio. I just had some great experiences. I grew up as a woman there. I grew up as a player. And I really grew my fascination and love for basketball, like right there. I mean, I always loved the game, don't get me wrong, but I knew that basketball was my passion while I was there. And by the time I graduated, I knew I was going to stay around basketball in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Okay.
And I just had great coaches, man. Duffy pushed me. He loved me. Him and his wife accepted me as their family. I had great assistant coaches, Deb Roof, who and the crazy thing is, I'm still friends with all my coaches. Like, I talk to Duffy probably once a month. During basketball season, maybe twice a month. He tries to catch a game every year. Deb, I talk to her. I talk to Erica Floyd. I talk to Lisa because her daughter is one of the top recruits in the 25 class. So I see them on the road and everything. I'm like Auntie Mo. I was telling her, listen to your mama. Don't get crazy with this recruiting stuff. Let your mama help you because she know.
Right.
But I just try to instill the love and the support that was given to me to my players. And at this level, I'll tell you, the kids are more academically gifted. Okay, like these are smart kids. Like the
Right.
kids that I'm recruiting are highly intelligent kids. So this level versus when I was at the D1 level, not to say the D1 kids are not smart, but it's just a different level of importance, right? Everybody is trying to, at the D1 level, once you make it to the D1 level, you mostly have aspirations to play at the pro level.
Yeah, you're thinking about
So
what's next. Right.
what's next, right? Right. These kids here are like, yo, I'm about to be a doctor. I got this hookup over here. I'm about to make this connection. I'm going to the financial district in New York City. So it's just different. But what I try to get them to understand is, even though it's different, you still got to have the same foundation blocks, right? So like our team motto, DHC, discipline, hard work, compete. You got to have all those things regardless if you going to go play pro, if you going to go work at Goldman Sachs, if you going to be a doctor, if you going to be a lawyer. You still need to have those foundations to be great at whatever you do. Hell, if you want to be the manager of a franchise at McDonald's, you still need those foundation blocks to be great. So I just try to instill in them what was given to me at such an early age. I mean, I can remember my AAU coach, God rest his soul, he taught me everything. He was like, hey, yo, you got to practice. Get up and go practice. If ain't nobody going to go with you, go by yourself. If I can't get you to the gym, get on the bus. If your mom don't got money for sneakers, go get a job. Like, I remember he used to pick me up from my job. I used to work at the mall. He would pick me up, take me to practice, and bring me home every day. Because my mother at the time, my mother didn't drive. After my father passed away when I was 13, it was just me, my mom, and my two brothers. So you had to find a way, man. You had to get in where you could fit in. So...
Well, and so much of it, right, Mo, is find a way or make a way, right? And I there's a dynamic that you and I have in common because we both, I mean, you were there currently, but when we first met, we were competing at the high academic level, and we would play each other once a year. And one of the things I think, especially with that base of players, is a lot of times the athletes that we're recruiting maybe have not experienced the same type of hardship that you've experienced. So you maybe learned how to find a way or make a way as an early teenager, but when they face hardship on the court with you for the first time, that might be the first time. So it sounds like to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like to me you're trying to teach them those life lessons in those moments, whether they've kind of been there for them before or not. Is that a fair thing to say?
Bingo. That is, you hit the nail right on the head. And that's my whole hookup with coaching. Like, I get it, right? So now, when I was at D1, kids probably did have this. A majority of the kids had my same experience, right? Like growing up, trying to figure it out. You got to hustle and bustle, make a way. Here, kids different. But when you get on the floor between those the hard lines, you know, mommy and daddy can't help you. Like, you gotta figure it out. You gotta find a way to figure it out. And that is honestly what I try to instill in them. And I'll be honest with you, my first year, it was hard. I was about to go back to being a D1 assistant after my first year. I was like, this is not for me. I don't know, but this just ain't for me. I was like, I'm having issues. But I dove into myself that summer. readjusted some things, read some books, readjusted my thinking, came back, and it's been great ever since. And the kids, I will say, they have really allowed me to coach them and teach them, and not just coach them on the floor, coach them in a holistic standpoint. And I'm so grateful for that. And I enjoy being a head coach and running a program. I have a great assistant coach in John Sanchez, who I think is going to be a rock star in this business. At some point, he is going to be a phenomenal head coach. He is a great assistant coach. I had Nan Moore before him, who now is doing great things with her outreach and open arms program and doing great. So, the tree, just for me, it keeps growing, and I want to make my players be great, but I also want the people that work with me to be great too. So yeah, man, like I'm in it to win it, as they say.
Well, and I think, something I've said to a lot of young people that I work with is the way I view basketball is basketball connects me to the people I want to be around. I learn, and by the way, it's not everybody, because also some teams have people that I don't want to be around. And you also know what it's like to sit in a room with your captains and be like, hey, we're not going to focus on the bottom. We're going to focus on the middle. We're going to pull up the middle, let the bottom be the bottom. But I love being around high achieving people. I love being around people with drive. One of the things you just shared with me in your response, and I'm going a little off script here, but I think it's important. You talked about your recruiting experience, how you had blown out both your knees and a lot of your recruiting had gone up. Something I know just about the two of us historically, we've competed against each other using players, playing players that lost some ground in their recruiting processes because of injuries. So I'm curious for you, did your own personal experience sort of influence your openness to recruit some kids that maybe got injured in high school? Because this has been something that always bothered me, and I know you and I are alike on this. I never considered a major injury in high school to be like a red flag for a kid, like some other coaches. But given that was your personal experience, I'd love to hear more about your take.
Yeah, no, it actually did. Just because, imagine yourself, 15, 16-year-old kid, you got shoe boxes full of letters, right? Come on, come visit, this, that, and the third. You tear the first one, dwindles. You tear the second one, it's non-existent. There's no more letters are coming. And I just feel like, that can be devastating to a kid. If I wouldn't have had a praying mother, supportive brothers, supportive high school coaches, AAU coaches, to say, hey, it's going to be all right. What's for you will be for you. I would have been lost in the sauce. So I'm like you in the sense, if I see a kid, I remember 2 years ago, I was recruiting a kid. She called me, and she's a junior here now. Sophie Blomberg. I'm going to throw her name out there. Called me. She had verbaled, whatever. Coach, I hurt my knee. I can't play my senior year. Do you still want me? Yeah, I do. I made a commitment to you. Of course. I'm not that person. So I don't know who you've been dealing with, but no, I want you to have a great surgery, rehab, and when you get here, we gonna do what we do. And she's been great. And I'll never forget, her father called me after the fact and was almost in tears, to the fact, I just appreciate you, Coach. I appreciate you, sticking by what you said. And I said, listen, I'm not in the business of playing with people and playing with people's emotions. And regardless, if she would have not been able to play a tick on the clock, I would have found a way to keep her somehow within the program. Because that's
right. She adds value. Find a way to add value.
Find a way, man. You just got to find a way. You just don't drop people and pick people up. This ain't a game. This is people's lives. This, you know what I'm saying? So you got to have some type of empathy. And I think my background with injury gave me a really good lens to have empathy for people and help people and just do the right thing. My mother always tells me, just be a good human and do the right thing and it'll come back to you. And that's what I really try to do. Am I perfect? Do I make mistakes? Nah, man, I make mistakes every day.
This is what the players don't know. The players don't know the coaches just like sit in bed at 11:30 being like, what did I just do?
Man, listen, I be up. We ain't played a tick on the clock and I'm up at 4:00 this morning. Like, okay,
Right.
well, what we doing today? What, you know? So, you just try to be, I just try to be a good person all around, whether I'm coaching, a mom, a daughter. I just try to do the right thing, man. That's it.
I want to dive into the mom part of that for a second because, seeing you on the road. Now, this is even pre-pandemic. This is like first time I see this, like 2017, 2018, seeing you on the road was really the first time that I started talking to now she's my wife now, but my then fiance being like, I think we can do this. Like, I think we can do kids and coaching. You were one of the coaches that like made me a believer. I would love to know how, you've already talked about trying to have a small unit, trying to have a tight family on the court. How is having a real true nuclear family off the court, how has that influenced your coaching or maybe changed your perspective a little bit in what you do?
Oh, man. I tell you what, my kids have been a gift from God, man, for real. They're the best things that I've ever done. And I tell you, they keep me grounded because they don't give a, can I cuss on here or can I not?
I'll go for it.
Okay,
you go
they
for
don't
it.
give a shit, yo, if I win or lose.
I'm learning that very quickly.
They don't care.
Your schedule. Oh, seems interesting, Dad. Well, I just shat my pants.
Man.
Yeah. Now let's talk about your schedule.
Yeah, like for real. So they just keep me grounded. So whether I win or lose, when I walk through the doors of my home, it's just mommy. Oh, I missed you. Come here. Pick me up. Give me a hug. This is what happened with my day. You don't have time to bring all that home. So for a little bit, I get to just be a mom, right? I don't get to think about the game, the team, the practice, the issue with the player. And I think it makes me better just because I have learned how to compartmentalize more. And my oldest is 9 now. I think when me and you first met, she was probably like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe. And now she loves basketball. She loves being around the team. Has her favorite players. Every year she's like, Mommy, I learned all the first year's names. I know everybody. I'm like, that's great. My youngest is just all about just running around through the gym. I had another little girl during COVID 2020. So she's 3 now. So she is just as rambunctious as she want to be. She at the games, Jared's sitting on the opposing team's bench looking at them like, yeah, this is my gym. Like, y'all in my space. Like, I'm going to sit right here. It's hilarious. The other team be looking like, I'm like, oh, that's my daughter. They like, okay, coach. I'm like, just send her down if she bothering you. It's all good.
A little too young to be put on the baseline. And you get, it's amazing how much you can get away with when you're in that toddler phase. Because it's all adorable.
It's all adorable. But the team loves them. And I think that my kids give the team a look at me from a different lens, right?
Okay.
Like they see me as Coach Mo all the time. But when my kids are around, they also get a chance to see me in mommy mode. And I think they recognize the difference.
You're a human being. As silly as that sounds, it made you a human being and not just a coach to them.
100%. And they see me bending down, tying shoes, or giving hugs, or I'm carrying my 3-year-old during practice, still pointing out stuff. They just see all that, or they see me rushing from one thing to another thing to get Kennedy to ballet, or how I have to juggle things. And I think I really feel like, and I could be naive, but I think they respect the fact that I'm grinding for them and for my family. So I
Mhm.
think they give me just a little bit more when I ask them to give me more, because they like, shoot, if coach is doing it, like I don't have an excuse, right?
When I talk to young coaches in like WBCA mentor groups or anything like that, the thing I always harp on with them is modeling the way. And I can imagine now, my little guy's still super young, but I can imagine in the future, if I'm fortunate enough to return to coaching, I can imagine that model the way thing being on full display, because you're trying to raise your family. And
Yep.
obviously, you have standards as a parent that you're not
Yep.
going to compromise,
Yep.
but you also have standards as a coach that you're not going to compromise. And a coach's mindset, we're talking about finding a way or making a way. A typical coach's mindset is, oh, I'm going to do both. I'll do both.
100%. Yep. Yep.
so,
We
I
don't,
think,
in our mind, we still like, oh, I'm going to do both and I'm going to do both well. Like
right. Right.
it's
And I
nothing.
think, so what it really comes down to is, and I wish more people understood this about coaching, Mo, because all we're ultimately asking our kids to do is try. Whether it's
100%.
try something new, try their hardest, try it our way, which is a lot of times our talks with the first years. Hey, I know you did this thing in high school, but just try it this other way.
Yep.
And I think you're absolutely right. When the kids see us trying as hard as we can, that's when that model the way chip kicks in, and the kids are like, okay, they're practicing what they preach. They're real with me.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you, in 2020, when I had my second child, I felt some type of way. To be honest, I was quite nervous, and I'll be honest with you, quite embarrassed to tell the team, because it was out of wedlock. It wasn't planned. And I was like, everybody is going to have questions. They're going to be looking at me crazy. And I made a conscious decision to just tell them the truth. I sat the girls down and I told them, I said, listen, life happens, things happen. But what I want you to do is learn from I'm not going to say my daughter is a mistake, but the way I handled the situation was not right. Learn from that. Be better, right? If you get to the point and you want to have kids, that's fine. Plan it, do it, all that type of stuff. But if not, make sure you take the steps so that you're not in a situation that you don't want to be in. And they really understood. And it was funny. Some of the mom parents would come up to me at like our family gathering and stuff, and they would be like, I really appreciated what you said to my daughter, just because you're giving her knowledge. And I know that was probably hard for you. And the moms are great. The parents are always like, listen, we love how you do it. You're a great mom. You doing it. So I am very open and honest with my players. And I think that is something, Jared, that helps me in recruiting. It helps me coach. I'm going to tell it like it is. And if they want to know something, I'm going to tell them. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to be 100% upfront with them.
This is a good opportunity to segue, because you and I can be honest about recruiting right now. And yes, that's exactly it. And I want to start by setting the table, because I want our listeners to understand we're talking about a very specific beast right now, which is high academic Division III recruiting. And high academic Division III recruiting works in a very different way than just about any other type of recruiting. And I know now, when I started at high academic D3, I had 2 years of grad experience at the D1 level. And after only 2 years, I thought I was walking in tornado. So I can't even imagine what you felt like after a decade and a half of coaching at the Division I level. So my first question to you is, even at the D1 level, you were coaching in the Patriot League at Colgate. Like, you were coaching at the high academic level. What were some of the immediate differences that you saw that you think would be really important for people to understand coming into D3? Like, what was radically different to you?
The biggest thing for me was the fact that you could be out anytime. Like,
or like talk to people anytime.
Yeah. I was like, what? Like, so I can go and I can talk to these people and so when D1 is shut down, I can still go out and recruit. Man, I was everywhere. I was everywhere. I was like, shoot, we going everywhere. Let's go. My AD had to be like, hey, yo, like, that's not in the butt. Like, you got to scale it back a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, my bad. My fault. I just, I didn't know.
Do you remember the first time? Do you remember the first time you saw a D3 coach talking to a kid right after they played in the game and being like, "Yo, do I report this person? How does this work?"
Man, listen, I'll never forget. I was sitting in the gym and I was like, "Damn, he went right up to the kid after the game." I was like, "Oh, we can do that." I was sitting next to one of the other NESCAC coaches and they was like, "Coach, you look shook right now. You okay?" I'm like, "So we can go talk to the kid?" They was like, "Yeah, coach, you can go talk to the kids. Like, you good." I was like,
do you immediately go, for real? Do you immediately go like, "Oh, this is a lot easier. This is going to be
in
fine"?
my mind, yes. In that instant, yes, I thought that, but
it's
now
not.
To dive deeper, it's actually more difficult because your pool of kids is so much smaller. You can't cast in D1. You can cast a huge net, right? At this level, and especially at high academics, oh man, your pool is so much smaller where the communication has to be more on point, more often, with the parents, because the parents are more involved, I feel like. And then you got to think about you're going against all D3 high academic institutions. Like when you were at Union, we was always recruiting the same kids. Like I would be like, y'all's name would come up constantly. I'm like, okay, well, all right, let's go.
It's in a weird way, and I told this to Sahar when I was working with Kinesis. It was almost like comparing cereal boxes. Like we had and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you shared earlier the Cleveland State story, and it sounds to me like that coaching staff was able to convey to you, hey, here's the plan for you on the court. You matter, and we're going to pump love into you. And those are the most important things. 100%. Whereas for some of these high academic kids, we basically have to show them, this is what your career is going to look like 20 years from now. We're going to pump you, like, you're going to go to this class, this class, this class, this class. You're going to meet this professor, and we are going, like, and not just the kid, but the family. They want to know that whatever decision they're making is going to result literally in a lifetime of achievement based on the choice they made collegiately, which is very tough.
100%. We always talk about what the return is going to be, right? Like, we know the institution is expensive. We know you're going to get this great education. You're going to get the return on the back end, is what we always say, with the alumni base, with the job placement, with the graduation rates, all that type of stuff. So it's a different beast from my experience at D1 to D3. Like, I have so many friends that still coach D1 and they like, you coming back? I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm good. Because I really feel like I found my niche at this level. Like, our recruiting here is great. I think we figured out, our script and how we function and how we kind of set ourselves apart from other institutions. And I like it. I like the different challenges that I face, explaining the recruiting process to kids now is different because everybody thinks they gonna go D1 regardless.
Right.
And I'm like, yep, I'm just gonna bust your bubble right off the rip. Like, no, you not. Like, you might get a letter or two, but that might not be your reality. And D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, all those things are okay too.
They're all great options.
All great options. And I think what has happened is people don't push those options. AAU coaches, high school coaches, everybody wants everybody to go to D1, whether it's good for them or not. And that is why we are in the situation we are in collegiate basketball with transferring. Because kids are not getting good information, are not getting good help, are not getting led the proper way. So they make poor decisions and then they got to circle back. And it really stinks because you take time away from a kid. If you would just steer them in the right direction initially, they could have a great 4-year career. Whether they want to go pro or be a doctor, lawyer, or whatever, they can still do all of those things at the lower levels. And now with pay for play,
Right.
the NIL, all that stuff, it just has created such, I feel, and this is my opinion, Jared, I feel like it just has given collegiate athletics the wrong lens. What are we really focusing on? Right? Like, what was the point of trying to be a collegiate athlete? Right? Like, was it to get paid, or was it to get an education and to further yourself and maybe win some games, have a great college experience? I don't know if it's that anymore. That's why I love this level, because I think at this level that purity still exists. And I'm really ashamed kind of where D1 has went. Just because I enjoyed my college experience, and like I said, I grew as a human being and as a woman. And I don't know, with all the money that's being thrown around now, if it's possible for young people to really get the full experience of what collegiate athletics is supposed to be about.
Well, I can tell you right now, just the differences between, you played in what's now known as the Horizon League, the differences between the Horizon League, the Metro Atlantic, Mid-American, and then all of a sudden it's Conference USA, and literally the cost of admission is different. Like, these are kids, as soon as you get a Conference USA offer, they're not really taking your calls anymore because they're like, oh yeah, I'm off the rip getting $15,000.
100%.
Then it's like, okay.
Now, mind you, I was a player.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, when I was a player, I used to be like, dang, I wish y'all would pay me. Shoot, I'm out here. I want my cut too. But I just think now it is really beyond me. When you have kids, schools come in for official visits, and the first thing people want to talk about is the money. And when I say money, back when I was doing it, the money was the scholarship, tuition,
and the cost, and basically whether or not, hey, do I get cost of attendance? That's the money.
100%.
Do I get cost of
100%.
attendance? Yeah.
Right. So when I played, cost of attendance was not even in it. That came after me. So it was really just, are you going to pay for my school for 4 years? Like, my mom can't afford to pay for school. Am I getting a scholarship? Where now is, okay, well, how much money am I getting up front?
Yep.
Because if you're not
a signing bonus for a kid,
100%. If you're not talking about X amount of dollars, we can just stop this, and I'm gonna just talk over here. And I know this just because like I said, I still keep connections with D1 people. A lot of my friends are there. I don't think personally my core values and my morals, they don't align with that. So I would struggle, I think, to go back to D1. So I just try to keep my job, Jared, every day. Yeah. I just try to keep it.
But let's
keep my nose clean.
But on the subject of that, though, you just said something really important. And this is a point that I used to drive home when I was recruiting for Union all the time, which is people might misunderstand what you just said. Not because you said anything wrong, but instead because young people want life to be easier than it actually is. So we're talking about why we enjoy the D3 level. You're talking about why it's a right fit for you and for a long time and potentially in the future is the right fit for me. I love the D3 mission.
Yep.
But I think that means sometimes for young people, they hear that message and they go, oh, the standards are not going to be the same.
Oh, and that's definitely not the case. Not over here, at least.
Right.
Not at Hamilton. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
So these
I
young people, so you would say, like, I don't want to make it sound wrong, but I think sometimes I have shocked some young people when they like come watch a practice. And this is why I always encourage people that really want to take recruiting seriously, go watch a D3 practice, because they're like, oh, that coaching staff has standards. You can't take 15 years of D1 coaching experience out of Mo Green just because she works at Hamilton.
No, we bringing that experience to Hamilton. That's the beauty of it, right?
Right.
So I'm the same way. I want you to come watch practice. I want your parents to come watch practice. I want them to understand. And again, I say it in my recruiting process. So I make people very aware of what you're getting into when you come and you say, I'm interested in Hamilton. I don't hide it. Listen, I run my program like a D1 program, period. Because that's all I know. I was at the D1 level. I played at the D1 level. Coached. I don't know how to. If you told me you need to run a D3 program, I don't even know what that means. So
right.
I don't understand that. You're going to be pushed. Practice is going to be organized. Practice is going to be competitive. You are going to run. We are going to get skill development. You are going to get 5-on-5. It's probably going to get stopped more than you like it. You going to get coached. You going to walk out of practice and call your mama and say she crazy. I don't know what is wrong with her. She crazy. She stopped practice like every 5 seconds. I sure did, because we going to get it right is what we going to do.
The standard is the standard, coach.
The standard is the standard. And it doesn't matter if you are the best player at a D1. If I was coaching at UConn or South Carolina, the standard would be the same. It doesn't matter that it has Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, JUCO. It's the same. Great coaches at this level, the standard is the same, period.
Now, young people, here's the important thing for you. What you might not understand is, even at the D3 level, there are more than enough young recruits that want to be coached like that 100%. Want to have a collegiate experience where the standard is elevated. So what I would call the biggest D3 deal breaker, and this segues into my next question for you, Coach, is sometimes we go out on the trail and we see talented kids that maybe they got a D2 offer, but they have no motor. And these kids, in their own mind, they're like, oh, I'll just go D3. And what they don't know is the D3 coaches are like, I don't want that kid. They don't have a motor.
Hello.
So
yeah, I mean, that's like the biggest thing that I look at when I go out recruit is, what is your motor like? Like that doesn't change. That's been my key focus from my D1 days. Do you have a motor? Can you play? Can you compete? What type of teammate are you? I tell kids all the time, if I'm coming to look at you, this is what's so crazy, Jared. As a coach, when we go look at kids, we already know you can play basketball, right?
Right. You've already met the criteria, or else we wouldn't be there.
Hello. So I'm not even really focused on you putting the ball in the hole. I'm looking at everything else around you. How do you react when a situation is not going your way? How do you react to your coach? Are you playing hard if you up 10, down 10, up 20? Are you a good teammate? Are you good to the officials? Are your parents in the stands acting crazy? I'm paying attention to all that. And I just don't think sometimes kids and parents alike understand what we are looking for. I think in their mind, they're like, it's D3, my kid is good. She can just,
they look at it like it's club. It's
100%.
brutal. It's brutal.
And that's the key thing. And I tell people all the time, this is my livelihood. Like, I'm getting graded too. So I got to have the best pieces to put on the chessboard. It's not checkers. We playing chess. Okay. Right. So, you can be the great basketball player, but I tell people all the time, I want good people. Mm-hmm. I want good human beings first and foremost. And maybe that means that human being might not be the most talented, but I can teach you skill. I'm very confident in me teaching you the game, and you can be a very efficient, great player for me But if you got a nasty attitude, bad disposition, and your parents is crazy, I can't do nothing with that. So I'm gonna nix you off my list.
Yeah.
Instantly.
We talk about this all the time. So now for the sake of our listeners, let's just keep a little score here. So just because it's not D1 doesn't mean we don't want a high attitude kid. So high attitude is definitely the first one. Yep. We're also looking for big competitive spirit.
Yep.
Skilled player. Because we're high academic, good grades.
100%.
That's gonna be bought into, which is probably the biggest one that most people don't think about, a really high competitive standard. So I think those 100%. Are our like really, really big five. Is there anything, if we're just building up a quintessential high academic recruit, have I missed any details that you'd want to share before we move on to the nuts and bolts about the process? Is there anything I just missed that you'd want to add?
I think the only other thing would be being okay with not being perfect. I think sometimes we
that's so important.
With high achieving, high academic kids, they tend to bring that classroom attitude of I've gotten all A's, I'm perfect, onto the court. And then when it doesn't manifest that same way, they don't know how to handle that. And understanding that it might not manifest the same way. And that's okay, because 9 times out of 10, it doesn't. Because when you get to the collegiate level, at whatever level you're at, you're in a room with kids that are just as good or maybe better than you. So there's going to be some gray area for you to learn and grow. And that's okay. But I that's what I run into is just, they just want to be perfectionists, and they're not okay with failing or waiting their turn and not being the best one. And I tell them all the time, great players, you gonna fail. Failure is the best thing. That's how you learn.
Mm-hmm. No, you just said something so important, because I actually think in a weird way that fear of failure even manifests itself onto the play. Like, I remember a specific scenario, and I'm going to shout this kid out because I love this kid. Her name's Laura Vinton. She played at Union. She was an undersized 4, but we liked playing 4 out. So she always had a role for us, but she was right-hand dominant. And we were working on skill moves with her left hand, but she had such a fear of not executing the move correctly in game that she just wouldn't do it in game. And it got to a point where I actually broke down film with her. I just called her into my office and I showed her this, and I wasn't mad, but like, just if you're a kid listening to this, and Mo, I know you could testify to this. This is how coaches like us sound when we're in film with the kid. It's like, Laura, I need you to watch this. And she makes her move, and basically this kid is playing her perpendicular to the baseline. So if Laura wanted to go left, she could have moonwalked to her left.
100%.
Right. And I'm like, tell me what you see. She goes, oh my God, it's that bad. And I'm like, listen, It's not bad, but you have to now understand that you're old enough that you're being scouted. So people know your game. And they're like, when she has the ball, you are going to take away her right. And here's people taking away your right, and you're forcing yourself to go right because you're afraid of going left. So we do another individual. And she looks at me and she goes, I swear to you, I'm going left the next game we play. First 2 possessions of the game, she goes left. The first one, coach, she misses. And I was in my mind on the sideline, I was like, please don't care. Please do not care that you missed this shot. Like, find a way to not care. And like, you could almost see it on her when she missed the shot. She's like, oh my God.
Yep.
Thankfully, she goes right back to it. She makes her next 2. And then it's like, as soon as that happens, the page is turned forever. I'm sure you've seen something like that.
My freshman last year, Kendall Harris from North Carolina, 6'2", coach, when I say she can shoot the blood out the ball, oh man, she can flat out shoot the cover off that mug, okay? Right-handed player, loves to drive left. I mean, killing people.
A little cross? Yeah, okay.
Doing it. I mean, her crossover is so heavy. Bow. I'm like, okay, great. This is great. We get to conference play. Just now, you said the key thing. You've been scouted. They done watched every non-conference game. They know what you do. So I always preface them before we start conference. You got to do it. You need to have everybody should be working on their counter move now, because
The plan
everybody
B.
know what your main move is. We got to
Yep.
have plan B. And then after plan B, you need to be having plan C, because we got to figure it out. Get to conference. They still can't stop her. Pop, 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 pop. Yep, yep.
Mm-hmm.
She hit the wall midway through conference. I said,
Did it?
they are
I'm just going to
guarding
ask
you.
you. Did it tank her mentally?
Oh,
Like, did she get
100%.
brutal?
She was like, Coach, I don't know what to do. What do I do? I said, I've been telling you all season, if you would set yourself up and go right to start the game, then you can go left anytime you want to. I said, I think you forget you a right-handed player. I don't even understand who taught you that.
How
But
did you do
whatever.
this? Right?
I don't even understand how you switched the two, but it's fine. I
Right.
said, Kendall, you gotta set it up. Start the game out going right, because they not gonna expect you to go right. They gonna expect you to go left. Then come second half, midway through, second half you can do what you want to do. Last 4 or 5 games of the season, she got back to it. I said, okay then. Great game against Tufts. She went in the Tufts and lit them up for 30. Killing Maggie Russell. I mean, it was bad, Coach. It was.
Yeah.
I said, if you just understand what we are trying to tell you, you be great. And she was like, I got you. And it's a process. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? I think they just have to understand that everybody is good at this level. It doesn't matter, because everybody is getting picked and they're putting the puzzle together. So you're a piece of the puzzle, and you got to understand, you got to grow your game. I say that till I'm blue in the face all season. Grow your game. If you
And-
working on the same stuff all season, you're not growing your game.
And
You're
an
not gonna
important
help
part,
us.
of that, when you get exposed, it's going to feel like failure, and it takes some time to work through. I'm so happy you mentioned that. So now we roll into our last part, and you're like my hired gun for this part of the
got you.
process, because as you also know in coaching, sometimes you need an outside voice to hammer a point home, because the kids hear it from you, and after, by the time you hit February, the kids are kind of like, I've heard this before, whatever. Then they hear the exact same thing from someone else, and they're like, yo, Coach, that person is brilliant. And you're
Right.
like,
I was
really?
telling you that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I put together a list of the 3 things that I think are most important, that are most misunderstood by young people and their families that are trying to go high academic D3.
Yes.
And these are things, and we could spend a whole another podcast talking about AAU and club dysfunction, but these are things that, unless you really are with the right AAU program that has specialized in placing kids D3 before, these are things that AAU is not talking about. So I want to have the forum so we talk about it. The very first one I want to talk about is grades. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Okay. Let's say I'm a really cool, talkative dad, because that's definitely who I'm shaping up to be. I show up with my kid on a visit with Coach Mo at Hamilton, and my kid's grades aren't great, but I elbow Coach Mo on her side. I'm like, but Coach, you could support us. You're going to have our back through this process. Why don't you tell our listeners what that support looks like at the high academic level?
Yeah. So, if you a good player, I probably would have your support. And we do get some support. I mean, every institution gets whatever number they get or whatever. But what I think people misconstrue is that support don't mean that I just call admissions and I'm like, I want this kid. And they like,
and admissions
okay.
says yes.
Yeah,
Right.
no. In a perfect world, I wish. It doesn't work like that. Like, that support means that they're still going to look at your academic transcript, your test score, your high school's academic index, and they're going to weigh all that in, and then they give us maybe, or no, or yeah. And if it's not if it's a maybe or a no, there's wiggle room where I could like plead a case for you, but that does not guarantee you admission. And even I'm gonna go even deeper, Jared, for to make sure everybody understands. Even if you get the yes, right? You as a student still have to perform at the same level or higher academically your senior year, because if your stuff drops even a little bit, or you adjust your schedule and don't let a coach know, or you take away some AP classes that you had initially, oh, they gonna be looking at that like, oh yeah, she don't now they don't fit the profile. So now that has changed where we as an admissions department are looking at her and weighing her. And it's become at this level, the D3 level, the high academic level, it has become very, very, very much more competitive. Just from the time that I started
Mm-hmm.
at this level, it's way more competitive now. Just because most schools now are test optional
Mm-hmm.
since COVID, and they are diving deep into those transcripts, your senior year grades, your school's academic index. I mean, I've had some kids that have had all A's on their transcript, and I'm like, oh, this kid is a shoe in, and they be like, yeah, no, you
Right.
gonna have to. I'm like, what you mean? Like, and they like, yeah, no, Mo. And it's nothing I can do when admission says no, it's a wrap. Like
And that's what and you and I have both had to make a phone call like this in our time at D3 where like we look at the transcript and we're like, I really like you, but I don't know. I got to get a pre-read.
yep.
And your parents think because we like you that we're going to be able to turn a no to a yes. We do
No,
not have the ability at the D3 level to overcome the institutional standard.
do not. The instant, just like we said earlier, right? The standard is the standard on the basketball court.
Right.
It's the same thing in admissions. The standard is the standard. And their standard is not going to change because they want the cream of the crop, because the cream of the crop helps the institution, right? They get on US US News, best colleges, best campus, all those type of things. Those things are important to the admissions people
Yeah.
and the admissions process of the institution. So I don't have a say in that. I
Yep.
wish I did, but I don't. And I also don't have a say in financial aid. I tell people that up front. Like, I don't have nothing to do with no money, honey.
Oh,
Shoot, I
that's
want more money.
a great segue. The second one, all of these schools, and this is what parents don't realize, because once you think D1, you think athletic scholarships. Well, athletic scholarships don't just make financing higher ed easy, they make the front end in terms of how the school works easy. Each
Right.
team has X number of scholarships and they're budgeted into your budget and it's covered.
Yep. Yep.
Once you get to the D3 level, every single one of these schools literally has a different way that they finance admissions. So
Yes.
some schools are need aware. Some
Yep.
schools are full need blind. Some
Yep.
schools offer merit aid. Some schools offer no aid. So here's my next question for you, because you alluded to it already. Hey, coach, I don't think we can really afford Hamilton, but our family makes enough money that we're not really going to get aid. Can you help us with that?
No, I cannot, because I really don't have anything to do with financial aid, and I know it's expensive to go here,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell them the full price up front, and I tell them what we can. The best I can do is connect you with a person in financial aid that we tend to deal with within athletics, and you can speak frankly with them. They're going to ask you, have you done the net cost calculator? Which is huge within the D3 world.
Mm-hmm.
And here at Hamilton, the net cost calculator is pretty freaking accurate. Like, and it'll, there's a little wiggle room both ways, but it's pretty accurate. And I tell them they gonna dive into your finances, so you might as well be upfront and honest. Don't be trying to hide nothing, and just let them know. And if it doesn't work, You can maybe talk to them and see if they can work things out. But the thing I'll say about Hamilton, I think our financial aid department does a really, really good job of trying to assist families
Mm.
all the way through the whole process in the best way that they can. Because we are a full need blind institution here.
Perfect. So that means you meet people, just to make our listeners understand, need blind, in my opinion, is the gold standard for academia,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
it's the most equitable, with diversity in mind, admissions model, which essentially means they do not look at your financial aid whatsoever when they make an admissions choice on you. So if you can get into Hamilton, you are in, and then you pay whatever the government sort of indicates on your FAFSA that you can contribute.
100%. 100%. And I just think that people in the financial aid department and admissions, because they kind of work close together, they do a really, really good job of trying to make it work. Now, have I had to have a couple of tough conversations? Yeah. And it sucked. I'll never forget, I lost a top kid because the number couldn't get to where they could afford it. And I was like, I'll help you find another institution, but this just it's not going to work here. I thought I was going to lose Piper Seaman at some point. She just graduated last year. She was from,
Wow, I remember that kid, COVID year kid. Yep.
Yeah, yep. And they made it work for her, and she graduated, and she had a great 4-year career. So, I'm just, again, very upfront and honest with parents and families in the initial meeting. Now, some coaches may not do it like that. That has worked for me. I just throw it out there right up front. I cannot help you with financial aid. Shoot, I'm fighting to get my financial aid, my check bigger.
No, I totally get it.
You know what
And
I'm
it's
saying?
funny, these parents, oh my God, that's another podcast too. We bring you on for that one. We bring you back on for that one.
But then the thing is too, that I run into a lot of the parents, they do their homework. So they know up front. And then, we kind of weed it out, and you ask coaches, and, I think if you do your homework as a coach up front, you can kind of weed those recruits out. And it sucks that you might have to be like, "Ayo, we can't recruit them."
Right.
They just, from a financial standpoint, it might not benefit us. And for me, I like to put my best cards out on the table in front of me when I'm going to admissions and when I'm going to financial aid. I don't like to say I'm not holding no wild card. I just put them out there, right? Because I feel like if I don't have to ask for a whole bunch of favors, when I do ask for one, then I'm more than likely they'll be like, "Okay, Mo, we got you." Like we
strategy.
can make it work. Yeah,
100%.
Yep.
So homework is huge on that one. And now the idea is you do enough homework with piece 1, grades in the pre-read.
Yep.
You do enough homework with piece 2, you make sure you find the right fit and that you can afford it. And that brings us to piece 3. Not enough coaches talk to young people about the importance of applying early decision at the D3 level. So I'm going to ask you this point blank. Scale of 1 to 10. How important is it to you that a top recruit applies early decision? 10, most important, 1, not important at all.
It's a 10. And I'll tell you, if you want me to support you, to lend you support, you got to go early decision. Like, and if not, I'm not going to not recruit you. But at that point, you're going to move down the list, because I want my recruiting done so I can focus on my season.
It's no different than D1, kiddos.
It's no
the
different.
Coaches want to be done.
You want your recruiting done by November, like by the start of your season, so you can hone in on what you're doing. Now, I've been blessed ever since I've been here. Our recruiting classes have been done by the end of October. I mean, when I say we humping it, we do a great job, Jared, I think, of jumping on kids early, getting them to campus early, getting them to campus often, getting them to our elite clinics. So by the time they're ready to make their decision after July, August, September, we in there like playing. Like, I already got 2 kids for the 25 class already done. I'm waiting on one more. If I get two more, that's great, but I really only need one more. It's got to be done. And we are very adamant about early decision, but it's good for the student athlete too. And this is how I spin it. You're done with the process. You don't have to stress. You can enjoy your senior year. Your parents can take a collective breath, right? And be like, I can just enjoy my kid's senior year. I don't have to worry about trying to get her to this elite clinic and that elite clinic. And if she hurts herself during the season, or if the coach is playing her, not playing her, I can just sit back and be like, oh, yeah, my kid made her decision. We good. We waiting on the financial aid stuff to come through. We already stocking up, going to Target and Walmart, buying sheets and lamps and fans and refrigerators, right? So, like, I just think it's very important. And I think kids run into issues at this level where they try to play the game in the sense, well, I'm going to string this coach along and no, you don't understand. We recruiting.
We're moving.
We moving. And if you say you want to wait, that's fine. Just understand, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to offer that support and lend that support to the next person because they might be ready to say yes right away.
My number one recruiting conversation with top kids was, listen, I understand you're a top kid, so I might lose you. But the thing I can't do is lose you and the kid that's right behind you.
There you go. We say the exact same thing. Yeah. Verbatim, just like that. Verbatim.
So, and this is so good. So parents and kids, one last thing, because I think this is important. Let's just say hypothetically you're one of those fringe academic kids that we were talking about in section 1 of this, then you have to go ED because you're competing against a smaller pool. When 100%. You go ED, you're only going against the other people that applied ED and they're reading you separately. So ED, it's your best bet to commit with coaches. It's your best bet academically. Do it. If you're serious about a place, go ED.
Listen, I say it verbatim, just like you said it, because your pool is smaller. You wait, the pool gets greater and greater, and there is no guarantee, even with help from the coach, support from that you get in. Because at that point, the admissions people are going to take, they plucking. They taking the best of the best at that point, right? So as an athlete, you better be looking to go ED1. If you not, you better be sitting down rethinking your whole process if you look at high academic D3.
This has been a spectacularly informative hour. I have to be respectful of your time, so I got one more question for you, and then I'm going to let you go, okay? Let's go back in time, okay? Coach Mo Green is a 15-year-old again. Only difference is it's the year 2024, okay?
Got you.
You're a 15-year-old, it's 2024, and you've decided you're all in. You want to play college basketball. What are the first things you do, knowing everything you know now, to try to jumpstart your recruiting process?
I communicate to colleges and universities that I know that I want to go to. I initiate that contact. Hey, my name is Mo Green. Here's my player resume. Here's some full game highlights and a highlight tape. Coaches want full games, young people. Don't send me no highlight. I know you look good in the highlight. It's a highlight.
Did you know that everyone shoots 100% from the floor in their highlight 100%. Tape?
Why would I put my misses on a highlight? Hello. So that's number one. Number two, I am going to do my work early. I'm going to get out and visit schools. I'm going to go do unofficial visits. I'm going to go to as many elite clinics, camps that I can go to. I'm going to play AAU for one team. One team. I'm not going to hop around. I'm going to find the best fit for me from a coaching standpoint and a team standpoint and play on that team. I'm not going to hop because they're Under Armour or they're Nike or they are on the Adidas circuit or they get this gear. That I'm going to find one coach that fits me and stick with that coach and show some loyalty. Period. Two, I'm going to keep my high school coach informed and involved in my process as well. I think the high school coach has become non-existent, and you spend a lot of time with the high school coach during your high school season, and they need to be involved in that process
And
too.
they can really speak to you. Like they can speak to your
100%.
abilities with the college coach.
100%. And then the last thing is, I'm going to do all the intangibles. I'm not hiring no trainers. I don't need no trainer. I don't need nobody stealing my mama's money. I'm going to get in the gym and I'm going to work with my high school coach or my AAU coach. Or you know what? I might just work by myself or grab one of my friends and say, let's go get this workout in. And then I'm just going to play hard and have fun and enjoy the process and know what my intangibles are. What am I looking for in a program? What am I looking for in a coach? What am I looking for in an institution? I tell kids all the time, if you can go to that school without playing basketball or whatever sport it is, then that's where you should go, right? Like, say you get recruited to that school, you say, I'm going, you have a season-ending injury. Can you see yourself being a valuable student on that campus, having a great time as a college student on that campus? That's where you're supposed to go. And I'm going to show loyalty and not transfer. I'm going to stick with the process. And I'm going to be personable on the phone.
If there were a museum for recruiting advice, the last 2 minutes would be hung in a museum.
I appreciate it.
No, that was perfect. So let me first say, man, these are I try to explain this to my wife. Like, what are the things that really motivate you to try to get cleared and get back on the court again? And it seriously is competing with and against coaches like you. So Coach Mo, thank you so much for coming through. I really, really appreciate you, and can't wait to follow Hamilton this season. Best of luck to you.
Man, I appreciate you having me, Jared. Come check some games out if you in the area. If you need anything, call me. Take care of that beautiful baby and your wife. And listen, just know God got you, and you gonna be back in the business because you good at what you do, man. You good at what you do. So just stay diligent. Keep doing what you're doing. Putting out this information is great, and it'll happen for you just like that.
Appreciate you.
Stay positive and stay blessed.
That's going to do it for another episode of the Nail the Recruiting Process podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you got something out of today's podcast. If you'd like to learn more about anything related to Nail the Recruiting Process, the book, my work, maybe wanting to work with me one-on-one, anything under the sun, you're going to visit www.nailtherecruitingprocess.com. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can follow me at Nail the Recruiting Process on Instagram, or at Jared the Coach on Twitter and TikTok. Both of those handles are just one word, no characters, no spaces. If you'd like to ask something of me directly, if you'd like a question that maybe you want answered on a future podcast, or if you have an idea for something we should talk about in a future episode, please reach out to me via email. I would love to hear from you. My email address is recruitinggear@gmail.com. That's the word recruiting, then the word gear combined. recruitinggear@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we hope to catch you next time.